The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Chun pushed his cleaning cart down the sterile hospital corridor. His worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, a sound that had become the soundtrack to his double life. By day, he was invisible, just another orderly in scrubs. By night, he was everything to 80-year-old Lily. He paused outside the pediatric billing office, emptying the wastebasket when Ray's voices caught his attention. Through the partially open door, he saw a man in leather jacket and jeans, his tattooed hands clenched as he spoke to the administrator. The man's voice cracked with desperation. "My son Tommy has hypoplastic left heart syndrome. The surgery has to happen within 2 weeks or he dies. You people already denied the claim twice." Marcus froze, his medical training surfacing despite years of suppression. HLHS was complex, requiring multiple stage surgeries. Without intervention, children rarely survive their first year. The administrator's voice was clinical, detached. "Sir, I understand your frustration, but without prior authorization or full payment of $87,000, we cannot schedule the procedure." The leather-clad man stumbled backward as if struck. 87,000. His voice was barely a whisper. Marcus gripped his mop handle tighter, remembering another hospital room, another impossible number, another life hanging in the balance. Before we dive deeper into this story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have witnessed similar heartbreaking moments in your own community. The man walked past Marcus without seeing him, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Marcus watched him go, knowing that feeling of helpless desperation all too well. The apartment door creaked as Marcus turned his key in the lock, exhaustion weighing on his shoulders like a heavy coat. The living room was dimly lit by a single lamp, the overhead fixture dark since the partial power shut-off last week. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her math homework spread across the scratched surface, pencil moving carefully across the page. At 8 years old, she had learned not to complain about the flickering light or the cold dinner waiting in the refrigerator. "Daddy, you're home." She looked up with eyes that held too much understanding for her age. "Mrs. Patterson from next door brought us some soup. She said you helped her carry groceries last week." Marcus knelt beside his daughter, smoothing her dark hair. "That was kind of her. Did you finish your reading?" "Yes, and I practiced my violin, but I had to use the mute so I wouldn't bother anyone." Her small fingers traced the edge of her homework. "Daddy, why do some kids get to have everything while others have to wait?" The question pierced through Marcus like a blade. He thought of the man in leather, of Tommy lying in a hospital bed, of choices no parent should have to make. "Sometimes life isn't fair, sweetheart, but we help each other when we can." Lily nodded solemnly, accepting this truth with the wisdom of a child who had seen too much too soon. "Are we going to be okay?" Marcus pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "We're going to be just fine. I promise." But even as he said the words, his mind calculated the numbers. Rent due in 3 days. Tommy Morrison needed surgery in 2 weeks. And somewhere between those impossible mathematics, Marcus felt his late wife's wedding ring pressing against his chest, hidden beneath his shirt. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty at 6 in the morning when Marcus spotted the man in leather leaning against a motorcycle, cigarette smoke curling around his weathered face. Marcus had been thinking about Tommy Morrison all night, the child's condition haunting his dreams. He approached slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. The man looked up, eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion and grief. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly. "Yesterday, in the billing office, I heard about your son." The man straightened, instantly defensive. His hand moved instinctively toward his jacket. "Yeah, what about it? You some kind of social worker?" Marcus shook his head. "I'm just a father. Like you." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Hypoplastic left heart syndrome is treatable, but the window is narrow." The man's eyes narrowed. "How do you know about HLHS?" Marcus felt the familiar weight of his buried past. "I used to work in pediatrics. Before." He met the man's stare directly. "Your son can survive this, but time is critical." The leather-clad father studied Marcus for a long moment, taking in the faded scrubs, the tired eyes, the genuine concern of a stranger who had no reason to care. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Jake Morrison, and my boy, he's everything to me. Lost his mama 2 years back. It's just been me and Tommy since then." Marcus extended his hand. "Marcus Chun, I have a daughter, Lily. She's 8. Jake's grip was firm, desperate. "The doctors say without the surgery in 2 weeks, he won't make it to his 7th birthday. Then we need to find a way to make it happen," Marcus said simply, though he had no idea how. 3 days later, Marcus found Jake sitting on a bench outside the children's ward, head buried in his hands. The weight of impossible decisions pressed down on both men like a physical force. "Jake," Marcus said softly, settling beside him on the worn wooden bench. Jake looked up, his tough exterior cracking to reveal raw vulnerability. "They moved Tommy to the ICU this morning. His oxygen levels are dropping. The doctor says maybe a week, maybe less." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small manila envelope, his hands trembling slightly as he held it out. "What's this?" Jake asked, suspicious and confused. $8,000, Marcus said quietly. "It's not everything you need, but it's a start." Jake stared at the envelope as if it contained explosives. "Man, I can't take your money. You don't even know us." Marcus thought of Sarah, lying in her hospital bed 3 years ago, the medical bills that had buried him in debt even as they buried her in the ground. "I lost my wife to a condition that could have been treated if we'd caught it earlier. If we'd had better insurance, better options." His voice grew steady, resolute. "I sold her jewelry, took a loan against my final paycheck, sold my car. Every parent should have the chance to save their child." Jake's hand shook as he took the envelope. "You sold your car? How do you get to work?" "I walk," Marcus said simply. "It's only 4 miles each way." Jake opened the envelope, seeing not just money, but the complete sacrifice of a stranger who had become a brother. "Why would you do this for us?" "Because Tommy deserves to grow up," Marcus replied. "And because sometimes we're put in each other's paths for a reason." The formula walk to work had become Marcus's meditation time, his sneakers wearing thin against the pavement as dawn broke over the city. He hadn't told Lily about selling the car, crafting stories about needing exercise and enjoying the fresh air. At home, their dinners had become creative adventures. "Tonight we're having fancy rice bowls," he announced, spooning plain rice into mismatched bowls and adding a single hard-boiled egg to each. Lily giggled, playing along with their game. "Like the fancy restaurants downtown?" "Exactly like that." Marcus smiled, watching his daughter transform necessity into joy with the resilience that amazed him daily. Later, as Lily slept, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a stack of medical journals he'd borrowed from the hospital library. His mind couldn't shake the feeling that he was supposed to be doing more than emptying trash cans and mopping floors. The next morning brought chaos to the pediatric ward. A 6-year-old had fallen from playground equipment, and Dr. Sarah Williams was struggling with a difficult for insertion as the child thrashed and cried. "Try the external jugular," Marcus said quietly, then immediately regretted speaking. The words had slipped out before he could stop them. Dr. Williams looked up sharply. "What did you say?" Marcus stepped back, embarrassed. "Nothing, sorry. I should get back to cleaning." But Dr. Williams was already following his suggestion, successfully placing the 4. She caught Marcus's eye across the room, studying him with new interest. "You've done this before, haven't you?" she asked later, finding him in the supply closet. Marcus continued stacking gauze packages. "I used to be a pediatric nurse, before my wife got sick." Dr. Williams nodded slowly. "We could use someone with your experience." Tommy's surgery was scheduled for the following morning when Jake found Marcus finishing his shift in the cardiac wing. The burly biker's eyes were bright with tears he refused to let fall. "They got enough money," Jake said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your $8,000, plus what the club scraped together, plus some donations from people who heard about Tommy. The surgery is happening." Marcus felt his knees weaken with relief. "That's wonderful news, Jake. Tommy's going to be okay." Jake grabbed Marcus by the shoulders. "You saved my son's life, man. You gave up everything for a kid you never even met." "I did what any father would do," Marcus replied quietly. "No," Jake shook his head fiercely. Most people would have walked away. Hell, most people wouldn't have even noticed us in that billing office. But you saw us, really saw us. The surgery took 8 hours. Marcus waited in the family lounge alongside a dozen leather-clad bikers who had claimed him as one of their own despite their obvious differences. When a surgeon emerged with news of success, grown men wept openly. Jake found Marcus outside, both fathers breathing the cool evening air. Tommy's going to need physical therapy, maybe more surgeries down the road, but he's going to live. He's going to grow up because of you. Marcus thought of his own father, who had taught him that a man's worth wasn't measured by what he owned, but by what he was willing to sacrifice for others. I need to tell you something, Jake continued. I asked around about you. Found out you used to be head pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital before your wife got sick. You gave up your career to take care of her. Marcus nodded silently. Some things are more important than careers. Jake studied this quiet man who had turned his world upside down with simple kindness. Well, maybe it's time for you to get back to saving kids. 2 weeks after Tommy's surgery, Jake arrived at the hospital to find Marcus collapsed in the break room, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. The daily 8-mile walks combined with double shifts had taken their toll. You look like hell, Jake said, settling into the chair beside him. Marcus managed a tired smile. Tommy's doing well in recovery. That's all that matters. Jake studied his friend's worn appearance, taking in the holes in his sneakers, the weight loss from skipped meals. Man, you can't keep this up. When's the last time you had a decent meal? Before Marcus could answer, commotion erupted in the hallway. A maintenance worker had suffered a severe laceration from broken glass, blood flowing freely from a deep gash in his forearm. Without thinking, Marcus sprang into action. He grabbed sterile gauze, applied direct pressure, and elevated the injured arm while calmly giving instructions to nearby staff. His hands moved with the practiced precision of someone who had done this countless times. Check for glass fragments before suturing, he told the arriving resident. The radial artery looks intact, but you'll want to explore the wound thoroughly. Jake watched in amazement as Marcus seamlessly transitioned from exhausted janitor to confident medical professional. The injured worker's bleeding stopped, the crisis managed with skill that couldn't be hidden. After the ambulance departed, Jake cornered Marcus. That wasn't luck or basic first aid training. You saved that man's arm, maybe his life. Marcus shrugged uncomfortably. I just helped until the doctors arrived. Jake's eyes narrowed with understanding. You didn't just used to work in pediatrics, did you? You were someone important, someone people looked up to. Marcus met his gaze directly. I was the head of pediatric nursing at Children's Hospital for 8 years. But that was before. This is now. That evening, Jake walked into the Roadhouse bar where his motorcycle club held their weekly meetings. The dim lighting cast long shadows across weathered faces as 20 members of the Iron Brotherhood gathered around scarred wooden tables. Brothers, Jake began, his voice carrying across the room. I need to tell you about a man named Marcus Chun. The room fell silent as Jake recounted the story. How a hospital janitor had overheard his desperation, approached him with kindness instead of judgment, and sacrificed everything to save Tommy's life. This man sold his dead wife's wedding ring. Angel Rodriguez, the club president, said quietly. He walked 8 miles a day to work so he could give you his car money. Jake nodded. But there's more. Turns out Marcus used to be the head pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. He gave up his career when his wife got cancer, spent everything trying to save her. When she died, he was left with nothing but debt and a little girl to raise. The bikers exchanged glances, men who understood loyalty, sacrifice, and brotherhood in ways the outside world rarely comprehended. So this guy went from saving kids for a living to emptying trash cans, Diesel, the sergeant-at-arms, said. And when he saw one of our kids in trouble, he didn't hesitate to help. Sold everything he had left, Jay confirmed. Never asked for anything in return. Never expected to see us again. Angel stood up slowly, his presence commanding the room's attention. Brothers, we've all been helped by someone when we didn't deserve it. We've all needed a hand up when the world knocked us down. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. This Marcus Chun, He saw past the leather and tattoos. He saw a father trying to save his son. That makes him family in my book. The vote was unanimous. Operation Guardian Angel was born. The eviction notice arrived on a Tuesday morning, crisp white paper that felt heavy as lead in Marcus's trembling hands. 72 hours to vacate the premises. He had known this day was coming, but seeing it in black and white made his chest tighten with panic. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Lily asked from the kitchen table, where she was carefully eating her breakfast of toast and peanut butter. Marcus folded the notice quickly, forcing a smile. "Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart. Just some boring grown-up paperwork." But Lily was 8 years old and had learned to read the worry lines around her father's eyes. "Are we in trouble?" Marcus sat beside her, choosing his words carefully. "Remember when I told you about Tommy, the little boy who needed surgery?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Well, sometimes helping others means making sacrifices. Sometimes it means things get difficult for us, but we do it because it's the right thing to do." "Did helping Tommy put us in trouble?" she asked with the devastating clarity of childhood. Marcus felt his heart break a little more. "Helping Tommy save his life, Lily. That's never wrong. We'll figure out the rest." That afternoon, Dr. Williams found Marcus in the supply room, organizing inventory with mechanical precision. "I heard about your situation," she said gently. "The nursing position is still available. You can start immediately." Marcus looked up, hope and fear warring in his expression. "Dr. Williams, I appreciate the offer, but I've been out of nursing for 3 years. The field has changed. Protocols have updated. Skills like yours don't disappear," she replied firmly. "I watch you work. You have instincts that can't be taught." He thought of Lily, of starting over, of the possibility of returning to the work that had once defined him. Maybe it was time to stop running from who he used to be. Sunday morning arrived with the sound of thunder, but the sky was clear. Marcus stood at his apartment window, coffee mug in hand, trying to identify the source of the rumbling that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. "Daddy," Lily whispered, pressing her face against the glass. "Look outside." Marcus's coffee mug slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor as he stared down at the street below. 300 motorcycles lined both sides of the narrow road, their engines creating a symphony that had drawn neighbors from every apartment building on the block. At the front of the formation stood Jake, no longer the desperate father from the hospital parking lot, but a man transformed by gratitude and purpose. Beside him, a mountain of a man with salt and pepper beard wore a vest reading "President" in bold letters. The engines fell silent in perfect unison, creating a stillness that felt sacred. Jake looked up at Marcus's window and raised his hand in greeting, his smile visible even from 3 stories up. Marcus felt his knees weaken as he understood what was happening. "Lily, get dressed quickly," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" she asked, eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. "No, sweetheart," Marcus replied, tears blurring his vision. "I think we're being saved." Neighbors crowded their windows and doorways, cell phones capturing the unprecedented scene. Children pointed in amazement, while adults whispered questions about what could bring such a massive gathering to their quiet street. Marcus threw on his jacket and took Lily's small hand in his. Together, they walked down the 3 flights of stairs, each step carrying them toward a moment that would change their lives forever. The morning sun caught the chrome and leather as 300 bikers stood in respectful silence, waiting to honor the man who had taught them that angels sometimes wear hospital scrubs instead of wings. Marcus stepped onto the sidewalk with Lily's hand clutched tightly in his, facing a sea of leather-clad giants who parted respectfully to create a path. Jake approached first, carrying an envelope that seemed to glow in the morning sunlight. "Marcus Chun," Jake's voice carried across the silent crowd. "3 weeks ago, you saved my son's life. Today, we save yours." Angel Rodriguez stepped forward, his weathered hands gentle as he knelt to Lily's eye level. "You must be the famous Lily we've heard so much about. Your daddy is a hero, little one." Lily looked up at Marcus with pride shining in her eyes. "I already knew that," she said simply. The crowd chuckled, tension breaking like morning mist. Jake pressed the envelope into Marcus's reluctant hands. From the Iron Brotherhood and every writer who heard your story. Enough to keep your home, pay your bills, and get you back on your feet. Marcus opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a check that made him gasp audibly. "This is too much," he whispered. "I can't accept this." "You gave everything for a stranger's child," Angel said firmly. "Let strangers give something back." "But there's more," Jake continued, gesturing toward the street. "Brothers from 12 different clubs contributed. We've got job offers from construction companies, auto shops, even a hospital administrator who wants to fast-track your nursing certification." A gleaming black pickup truck rolled slowly through the formation of motorcycles. Jake grinned as he dangled keys from his finger. "Figured you might need reliable transportation for your new job." The neighborhood watched in stunned silence as this unlikely family embraced their newest member. Mrs. Patterson from next door wiped tears from her eyes, finally understanding why Marcus had always helped everyone despite having so little himself. Tommy Morrison appeared from behind his father, healthy and smiling, carrying a card made from construction paper and crayon hearts. 6 months later, Marcus walked through the pediatric ward of Children's Hospital wearing scrubs that fit properly and a name badge that read Head Nurse Pediatric ICU. The familiar rhythm of monitors and gentle conversations filled his heart with purpose he thought he had lost forever. Tommy Morrison sat in the recovery room, his surgical scars healing beautifully as he colored pictures with Lily. The two children had become inseparable, bonded by the extraordinary circumstances that brought their fathers together. "Uncle Marcus," Tommy called out, using the title that had stuck since that first hospital visit. "Look what I drew for you." Marcus knelt beside the boy whose life had changed everything, studying a crayon drawing of motorcycles surrounding a hospital. In the center, a stick figure man in scrubs held hands with a little girl. "It's perfect, Tommy," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Jake appeared in the doorway, no longer the desperate father from the parking lot, but a man at peace, knowing his son would grow up healthy and strong. "The Brotherhood voted last night," he announced. "They want to establish the Marcus Chin Foundation, helping families who can't afford their children's medical care." Marcus shook his head in amazement. "I never expected any of this when I heard you in that billing office." "That's exactly why you deserved it," Jake replied. Dr. Williams joined them, charts in hand and a smile on her face. "Tommy's numbers are perfect. Full recovery, normal childhood ahead of him." As evening approached, Marcus and Lily walked to their truck, the same one given to them by 300 strangers who had become family. Lily climbed in her car seat, security and stability finally restored to their lives. "Daddy," she said as they drove home, "you taught me that helping people always comes back to help us." "Sometimes it does, sweetheart," Marcus replied. "But we help others because it's right, not because we expect anything in return." If this story moved you, please drop a comment sharing your favorite moment or telling us about a time when kindness came back to you in an unexpected way.